All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of Friday Fire. I'm your host, Reggie Holmes with Enthuse Creative. Today, I'm joined by Jessica Shea of Cheers in a Box. Jessica, welcome to our program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, sorry about that. So Jessica, again, welcome. Tell everybody about Cheers in a Box. We're highlighting programs, we're highlighting businesses that got started during the pandemic this season, and your business fits in that category. So tell everybody about how you got started with your business.
Sure. Yeah, I like to say we are, quote, a pivot business, that dreaded word, but that is what we are. I have owned an event planning business called Shea it'll be 10 years in February. And just like anyone in the hospitality industry, COVID really crushed us. So back in early 2020, when everything canceled, I wasn't really sure what I was going to do from a business owner perspective, from a career perspective. But I knew eventually I wanted to do something to continue what I did best, which was design joyful experiences for groups. And so we spent a few months trying to figure out what made virtual events fun, how we could make virtual events fun, Zoom events. And, after a few months of testing it out, we did some free events for our industry and just brought people together, had a good time. While they were fun, we realized that people were starting to drop off and that Zoom fatigue really had set in. So the next thought then I had was, I feel like we're going to need to send something in the mail, something for them to actually use, something tangible, to get them more engaged with that event. And a lot of the businesses we worked with before were trying to get their clients to show up to these events. So we'd have to come up with creative ideas to do that. So virtually, I'm like, this has got to be something that's going to make them want to join another Zoom event. So I had a client at the time who we were taking their nonprofit fundraiser virtual. And I said, why don't we send them a Cheers in a Box? And she said, what's a Cheers in a Box? And I said, I don't know, but I think we could make it something kind of cool and essentially create this idea of a virtual Cheers while we are all stuck inside. And that's really where the idea was born. And by the summer of 2020, we had a handful of clients that we were kind of testing it out with, and then decided in September of 2020 to stand it up as its own website and concept. And we started with really more of the mixology and, everyone wanting to drink a cocktail at that point, and everything kind of grew from there with other types of events. So that's where we are now.
Great. And you've had great success with this new venture. Do you mind sharing a little bit about how successful you've been?
Sure. We've financially, we've hit some pretty incredible numbers. Even just in the first few months of being in business last year, it was the holidays, and it was pretty crazy. We actually had to shut down mid-December because I decided it was so much business that was coming in. We were going to start making mistakes, and we were still very small business. And so it got to the point where I said, I think that's the best business move, just to make sure that everybody's gifts were showing up when they should. And, then into the new year, things started to continue to grow. So we had our first $1 million in sales about 9 months into the business. And we're continuing on a great path and gearing up for a really exciting holiday.
That's great. Are you running into any challenges as far as the supply chain issues that are happening and logistics and stuff like that? How is that impacting your business?
Right now, it's more of, I think, a fear of what will probably happen and not knowing exactly what will happen, but we are planning in that way that things will run out. So we are starting to communicate to our clients and to anybody who's interested in working with us, the sooner the better, reserve your inventory, because eventually we won't even be able to get much more. So I predict that we will sell out of everything that we have purchased. And and probably may have to shut down early as well this year, just based on what we're hearing. But I think it's also an awesome opportunity that if it gets to that point, that we can reach out to even more local people in Virginia, and partner with them that are, maybe they're smaller businesses and they still have products that they want to sell. And, we've got some strategies in place to try to accommodate as many groups as possible.
Great. How quickly did you transition from, excuse me, the, one business sort of being hit hard by this external circumstance? Like, how quickly did you move from that to, I've got to think of something new, and like the new ideas started coming in? I imagine there was a period of like grief and loss, and then like, all right, well, what other opportunities are out there? Talk a little bit about your mindset when everything started happening.
It's a great question. It's honestly a giant blur, but I do remember that it took at least a couple months to decide that I was going to learn how to do virtual. I think you talk to any event planner, especially a meeting planner, they did not want to learn how to do this. This is what the tech people were supposed to be doing, all the AV guys. And so, but we were all forced to do it. And so, I think that took a couple months. And then one of my employees at the time that I had just hired before the pandemic to help me with registration. She's in Iowa, and we never met each other in person, but she'll tell you, like, from probably April through August, I doubted this idea for a while. I went, a lot of grief, a lot of, oh my gosh, I have to start another business. Like, that's from any business owner that's a tough thing to swallow. Like, oh my gosh, I'm going to start over. I don't know anything about packing and shipping, all the things I was going to have to learn. And I think I was fighting myself for a while just in that way. But eventually in September, I just said, you know what, we're just going to launch this site and see what happens. There's really no reason not to. But I mean, the whole process probably 6 or 7 months.
Yeah. Great. Well, who would you say is your target audience? Obviously, you are doing this around events that are taking place, but who is a great, target customer for your company?
The cool thing about this is that Cheers in a Box is for anybody. It could be anybody who wants to just celebrate. While we don't work with a lot of personal, like, families, it could be someone who wants to do a virtual celebration with people all over. But the majority of our clients it's B2B. We're working with businesses. We work with major, huge, like, big corporations who want to do just corporate gifting. Our biggest order was 1,200 boxes. So that's that type of client. And then we work with a lot of associations and smaller businesses who just want to engage their people who are now working remotely. They don't see each other. And that's what outside of the gifting side, we have this solution that will help connect these people with each other virtually through a series of just some games and the entertainment that we bring and the conversation that we provoke. And it ends up really being a great fit for any business out there. And we are just launching our B2C side. So anyone who had contacted us before and said, I love what you're doing, but I only want 5 boxes. We didn't do that. It was really meant for group business. So now we have, I think, over 15 boxes on the website that you can just purchase one-off, which is a new side of the business.
Yeah. I imagine that. I mean, that's great for, wedding parties, things like that. So lots of opportunity there. So the Cheers in a Box brand, how would you describe that in maybe 3 words?
Joyful, engaging, and bold.
Great. Those are all great words. And you've had tremendous success, just a year or so in. let's look 5 years down the road. Where is Cheers in a Box? What does your operation look like?
All honesty, I'm hoping that we're a well-oiled machine in the next year or so. As I mentioned, I've learned all of this as I've gone along. I didn't go to school for e-commerce or merchandising or inventory or shipping and handling. So a lot of this has been learned, and we've just kind of figured it out, and we've never missed a deadline. So we're doing well. But my hope is, especially in 5 years, that we have what we do down very clearly, and that we actually are moving into commercial space next week. So that's exciting. But in 5 years, I imagine and hope that we're in a space 4 times as big, and have a awesome team of people that love what they do.
Yeah. So having created two businesses, what's the biggest lesson that you've learned in your entrepreneurial journey that you could share with our audience?
I would say that it's always a hustle. It doesn't matter how far along you've come and what you've done. If you're really entrepreneurial and innovative, you're constantly trying to move the needle and pivot and continue to grow, as a person or even just as a business. So it's just always feels like a grind, but you have to, if you love that, which I do most of the time. It's a fact that's always going to be there.
Yeah, great. That's great. Great advice. Anything else that you want to share with our audience? Where can people find you and follow Cheers in a Box? And what's the next big thing? You mentioned the commercial space that you're moving into. So congratulations on that. What else would you like to just let people know about your business?
Probably that, we are event planners who are now in custom gifting and still virtual events. So, when you're working with us, whether it's for your custom gifts or virtual events, you're working with actual very professional and experienced event planners. So we have a different mindset than, some other companies might, and that everything we do is branded for the business that we're working with. So I didn't mention that before, but if you hire another gifting company, there's a ton out there that are great. The box might arrive coming from that company, which is pretty traditional. What we do is we brand every single order with your company's branding. So it looks like it's coming from you. So we think it's more thoughtful that way. It looks like you guys put the work in, not us. So that's one thing I'll mention, and that we really are focused on working with other small businesses. So a lot of the products that are in our boxes, the majority, we've made a lot of effort to try to keep it this way, are products from other small businesses. Pratt Standard being one, that's another DC-based female-owned business. All of our cocktail syrups, we worked with her from the beginning of this company, and lots of others as well, to just try to support each other and not use some of these huge retail brands. So that's something that we're focused on as well. But you can find us on Instagram. It's Send Cheers in a Box, not just Cheers in a Box. Someone took that handle before it for some reason when I started. It's not active, but I couldn't get it back. So it's Send Cheers in a Box. And then, we're on Facebook as well. And I guess I would encourage anybody who's looking to gift for the holidays, just like all the news is saying, do it soon.
Yeah. And while I have you, let me ask you this. So obviously the nature of events and the events industry has changed. You're a veteran. Let us know what you think about whether that will, one day sort of return to what it was. We're obviously in a hybrid kind of environment now. Do you foresee that continuing to be the case? Give us your forecast for what events will look like, at some point in the future.
Sure. Yeah, it's a great question. And it's been a topic of conversation for the past, especially year, as things are starting to go back to normal. I'm still doing events for Jay Shea. So we're headed to Vegas with a group in a couple of weeks. But I really believe that what we're doing right now is here to stay, because I don't think it's going to replace. People are going to be really excited to go back to in-person. It's going to get back to normal, but there's going to be the option for companies that can afford it and see the value in it to add that virtual component for a lot of people who just, can't make it to everything and still want to find a way to connect each other. And so it's here to stay. But I do think once we get through the next 6 months, things will get back to normal.
Great. Well, Jessica, thank you so much for giving us some time today. This has been a great interview. I've learned a lot about events and about your journey and getting Cheers in a Box off the ground and, off and running with great success. And we look forward to hearing more great news about how the business continues to grow. So thank you so much for being with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Reggie.
All right. Have a great Friday, everybody.